Games this past weekend, 2 wins for Miami, and both without either Tyler Herro or Bam Adebayo. We break down what went well for Miami, but West, does winning despite the absence of their two bestish players mean something?
David, it means they won 2 games in the absence of 2 of their bestish players.
You are Locked On Heat, your daily Miami Heat podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
All right, welcome to Locked On Heat, your daily podcast on the Miami Heat, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, now the #1 sports podcast network. Whether you're tuning in on YouTube or your favorite podcast app, thanks so much for making Locked On Heat your first listen every day. Join the Cookie Gang, become an everydayer. That means subscribing, tuning in every day, Monday through Friday, and signing up for the Everydayer Club with the link in the show notes. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Before tip-off, check the FanDuel app and see what's dropping during NBA Happy Hour every Friday from 6 to 7:30 p.m. Eastern. I'm Wes Goldberg, host of Locked On NBA Daily and Real GM Radio. I'm here with David Ramil. Both of us are credentialed Heat media members who cover this team every day, and as you could probably hear, one of us is having a problem with his voice right now.
Well, I was going to ask, I mean, is it normal for people to go into puberty in their 30s, or, I mean, is that just something cold related? So, I'm glad you
like the guy from The
that.
Simpsons. Sorry, sir. Like,
how's that job at the movie theater coming along, or at the fast food joint, or any other menial job?
Yes, that's right. My minimum wage job everywhere in Springfield. Yeah, I don't know what happened, man. It's gone. This is as best as it's been all weekend too. I don't know what happened.
Nice, nailed it.
Yeah, my
coming through in a clutch. This is Heat culture through and through, right?
That's right. I'm playing through pain in a way that some Heat players did not over the weekend. But we do have a ton to get to today, including what's at stake for Bam Adebayo when he returns to the lineup on Monday. Some listener questions that we're going to get to, including one about which Heat player doesn't get enough credit for those 2 wins. But first, David, the Heat beat the Hawks and the Pacers over the weekend, so it's time for the tastiest segment of Locked On Heat. It's time for credit cookies.
Amazing. I feel like we haven't played this song. Yeah, we haven't played this song in so long. It's been a drought in the Cookie Gang here. So you know what? Glad we were able to get a couple wins in a row here for us to talk about. So some encouraging signs for Miami this past weekend, despite the loss of the absence, I should say, of Bam Adebayo due to injury. And you know what? I think we'll start off with his replacement in those games. Kel'el Ware getting the nod at center, obviously, and holding down the fort from the center position. 7 of 10 against the Hawks for 25 points, and then follows that up with a 7 of 11 night for 15 points against the Indiana Pacers, also pulling down some major boards along the way, a couple steals, a couple blocks, just great overall games. He seems like he's found his mojo back. So, you know what, coming back in the starting lineup, a no-brainer. And perhaps the biggest indictment on Eric Spoelstra all season long is being able to kind of yank Kel'el Ware's minutes here and there over the course of the season. But Ware has stepped up. He's proven again that he is a reliable player and has been very, very good during the last 2 games. And so he gets rewarded with the bulk of the cookies. He gets 6 credit cookies go to Kel'el Ware.
So we are doing 20 total cookies for the 2 wins. Did we? I don't know if we mentioned that right. So
no, we did not.
Important to note that the numbers might sound inflated right now because that's a lot of cookies out of the 10 we usually get to get 70% of the credit.
He might get 6 credit cookies out of 10 anyway. Like, he was that good. I think he was that important to Miami's couple of wins there, being able to do what he did and have the defensive impact that he did. Also, that easy lob threat, being able to finish around the rim, shooting well from the perimeter, at least against the Hawks on Friday. So a good overall game from him, and he's just been great. So 6 credit cookies in total for 2 games.
He's been great. He's absolutely been great, doing everything that the Heat coaching staff has wanted him to do. He averaged 30.6 minutes over those 2 games, to your point, right, with Bam out. They really needed to lean on him, playing Nico as the small ball 5 behind him, which meant, man, and Vlad Golden was in the G League over the weekend, so you didn't even have that break glass in case of emergency type option. He was great. The 3-point shooting continues to be a weapon for him. Averaged 10 rebounds across those 2 games. That was huge. And I think more importantly was a +5 in those minutes. And it was just so different than the last time Bam missed games. And Kel'el Ware looked exposed in those games. And it was the opposite in this over the weekend, where he really just grabbed all the minutes, grabbed the responsibility, and ran with it. It's meaningful, right, that the Heat out rebounded their opponent in both of these games over the weekend, and Kel'el obviously has a ton to do with just that, including the 2 wins. So yeah, well deserved for Kel'el.
And another player who returned to the lineup and I think played some crucial minutes throughout both games, Pelle Larsson, after missing several games due to injury against the Hawks, he was absolutely sensational his first game back. 3 of 4 from three-point range, contributing to his 21 points, but just a solid overall game from him. 6 rebounds, 5 assists, a steal, 9 of 13 overall. Then follows that up with a 5 of 7 night against the Pacers for 16 points. He was great. I texted you at one point, is he like the key to Miami's success? And I think you had the great response. It was like he just seems to understand his role, his what he's supposed to do within the context of the offense and defense. Like he is their leading take charge man. He knows how to move well. He's just, as long as the 3-point shot is falling for him, it seems like that takes his game to a whole other level, obviously. But at the same time, I think he does understand how to be a vital connector to Miami's options here. Like he just provides something that maybe some of the other players in that starting lineup do not, in his terms of like, you know what, he doesn't need the ball, but can he fill lots of spaces when an offense breaks down? Can he cut to the rim? Can he shoot from the perimeter? Can he defend well? Those are things that might be missing when he's out there, when he's not out there. And so as a result, I think he just played a huge game. So he gets 5 credit cookies for 2 games.
So you have 6 for Kel'el, 5 to Pelle?
Correct.
Do I have that right? Okay. I agree with you 100%. But that 3-point shooting point is a good one too. I remember when Sean Livingston was coming off the bench for that Golden State Warriors dynasty team, and it always even felt like if Livingston hit a couple of shots, in addition to all the little things that he was doing, it just took the Warriors to a next level. Now, I don't mean to compare this 500 Miami Heat team to a dynastic Golden State Warriors team, but you have players who are able to just like fill the gaps and be the ultimate glue guys, and then every once in a while they also just make shots and add to that sort of bottom of the ledger production part of it. And when they do that, they tend to just be this ultimate like ceiling riser for their teams. Pelle kind of has that quality to him. Exactly what I texted you. He understands the assignment. Heat players and coaches over the weekend after these 2 wins, specifically talking about how they had to get back to their identity during these games, and the cutting and the off-ball movement and the spacing and the tempo and all these things. Pelle never wavers on that. He's the one guy who's always like, nope, I knew we were supposed to be doing that this entire time. And with him being out for the last couple of weeks, week and a half, I thought we really saw his value in that. There's an energy and a physicality and a speed to his game that nobody else really has on this team, that he's just relentless with. And even he coaches were just so impressed with the way he attacked his rehab. I mean, Eric Spoelstra talking about how, he was just going ham on the bike just to keep his conditioning up, and how impressed he was over that. This dude has like Heat lifer stuff just written all over him. Like everything you hear the Heat coaches talk about publicly and privately, it's just, this guy is such a favorite within that building. And you see why in games like this. The production in and of itself is huge in these 2 wins, but just the approach to the way that he plays is enormous.
Top 5 like best value contract in the NBA, right? Like a second round pick.
I'd have to give that more thought, but yeah, I probably it's up there, right? It's got to be up there.
It's got to be. Like how can you get this kind of production? And again, the little things that he does to contribute to winning. And you know what? I'll give you credit, because in the offseason, you saw him being able to take on a bigger role this season. I didn't think that was possible. I thought the team was too deep and they were going to try to find minutes here and there. And he emerged as just a key glue guy, connector in that starting lineup. And he's shown his value. So kudos to him, and kudos to you for recognizing that early on. But
let's do one more quick, and then we can finish up credit cookies in the next segment.
I got Jaime Jaquez taking 4 credit cookies for both games. A little shaky. He's shooting on Friday night against the Hawks, just 5 of 14, but he did finish with 16 points, and then follow that up with a really great 28-point game, 11 of 15 from the floor, getting to the Jaquez highway at will there. He was fantastic. He was just really, really good in attacking the weak Pistons defense. I'm sorry, the Pacers defense, not the Pistons defense, the Pacers defense. And he was really, really solid for 28 points. So he gets 4 credit cookies
for those 2 games? It's the Jaime Highway. If we're gonna steal Eric Reed's thing, might as well get it right.
No, I can't steal it. I can't. That's why I changed it. It's
that's right. That's right. It's a new thing. What are you talking about? Just tremendous, and it goes to something that you and I have been talking about during the losing skid. Was they just didn't have somebody to create something out of nothing. How many times did we talk about that? They just don't have that guy when the offense goes limp. Who's the guy that's just going to lift it up? And they just didn't have that guy. And then Eric Spoelstra literally saying that about Jaime after that Pacers game, where he said he can create something out of nothing, and that's something that we've been searching for weeks now. I mean, when you have that, you see what the difference is, and it really makes you start to think about what Jaime could potentially be, right? Especially in an offense like this. But that's probably a conversation for another day. We're going to continue Credit Cookies Plus. Bam Adebayo missed those 2 games with back soreness. We'll talk about that and the latest on when he should return after this.
Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Fridays already feel different during basketball season, and FanDuel is making them even better because every Friday night before the games tip off, FanDuel gives fans a new way to kick off the weekend with NBA Happy Hour. NBA Happy Hour is your official pregame, a limited time window where special offers drop right inside the FanDuel app before the action starts. Fridays from 6 to 7:30 Eastern time, that's Eastern time, have become appointment viewing with NBA Happy Hour. Opening the FanDuel app during Happy Hour always brings something new, boosts, bonuses, and surprises, and it's easy to check the weekly special before tip-off, and you can make a move before the window closes. The timing is perfect right before the games and right before the weekend starts. Everybody loves Happy Hour. Now you can take your chance at FanDuel to another level. So before tip-off, check the FanDuel app, see what's dropping during NBA Happy Hour every Friday from 6 to 7:30 p.m. Eastern. A little basketball, a little action, and a whole lot of Friday energy. That's NBA Happy Hour only on FanDuel, the official sportsbook partner of the NBA. We'll be right back.
Welcome back to Locked On Heat. Thanks for making us your first listen of the day. Thank you for making Locked On the #1 sports podcast network. You already live your team every day. Now take it up a level and go ad-free. Join the Everydayer Club today and get Locked On Heat with no interruptions, members-only Discord access, and more, all for just $5 a month or $50 a year. Go to lockedonheat.com or .supercast.com or check the link in the show notes to learn more. Let's continue on with our credit cookies, David.
Yeah, I feel like this was going to be a little bit of a debate because I've only got 2 credit cookies to Norm Powell. He went 9 of 16 for 25 against the Hawks, then followed up with a 7 of 19 outing for 23 against the Pacers. And yet I felt like he wasn't necessarily dominant in those games. He was productive, certainly, and the shots were more than important. But I don't know that he had the necessary two-way overall impact. Plus, I don't know that the shots were of the same kind of value as what we've seen from him in the past. I feel like he's in a little bit of a mini slump, not quite a major slump. I know he was going through it just a few weeks ago. He's been bouncing back, I think, steadily, and it seems like he's a little bit back to where he was at the start of the season. But I don't know. To me, the minutes just didn't feel as impactful in his time out on the court. But either way, still great overall production, really solid games from him, and he gets 2 credit cookies.
I think people would look at the numbers and be like, you're crazy. And initially when you said that, I'm like, this is a classic David, not giving credit to the people who should be getting the credit and kind of maybe overweighing some of the role players
classic
here.
David, yeah.
David. But I think you're right. Look, there is something to be said about the guy, especially with guys like Bam and Herro out who are going to take a lot of shots. Somebody just stepping up to take shots. We don't talk about that enough in terms of a skill in the NBA, like the willingness to take a lot of shots when sometimes they're not going in, and they did not go in at the rate that Norm Powell usually is shooting, especially from deep, right? Like over the weekend, he's not been shooting well from 3-point range. But the ability to step up and keep taking shots is huge, right? Somebody has to take these shots, especially with the minutes that a guy like Powell is getting. And he was really big in the fourth quarters of those games too, and I think that's important. But I can't. He deserves credit cookies, but I can't sit here and be like, yeah, that's the best of Norm Powell that we've seen. Right. And that you're like, I probably would have given him a few more, but I'm not going to debate you too hard on this. I think Powell was really good. He was really important. He gets credit cookies for those things, but it does feel like there's another level for him to get to. But really important over the weekend, just again, because he was taking those shots.
Conversely, I think a player who did step up in that regard, taking those shots and was more productive, Andrew Wiggins. Again, I think he was really, really solid in his minutes out there. 18 points, a plus 21 in his minutes on Friday against the Hawks, and then 28 points and a plus 13 in that starting lineup on Saturday against the Pacers. He was really, really productive, really good. The minutes really mattered when he was out on the floor, and he did a lot of little things. And I think, again, this is about him taking on a bigger role. Like Norm, he's going to be your bucket guy. He's going to be your go-to player, your scorer. And yet Andrew, I think, really did a good job of stepping up in that regard and recognizing, you know what, without Bam out there, somebody's going to need to take more shots. And maybe that's for the best, but he really did step up. And so I felt his impact was a little bit greater. And that's why I awarded him an extra credit cookie.
So Wiggins gets one cookie.
Three.
Oh, 3 cookies. So that's it. We're done.
Yes, exactly.
Wiggins was fantastic. As you know, my barometer for Andrew Wiggins is not points. It's not field goal percentage. It's not 3-point shooting. It's not it. When I look at him all the time, offensive rebounds, 4 against Atlanta, 5 against Indiana. When he is engaged on the boards and getting those putbacks and creating extra possessions, that's that next level of Andrew Wiggins. It's not scoring 40 points or 30 points or whatever, even though he had 28 points against the Pacers, and those were huge.
Right.
Especially in the second half where they were so good. When they needed an answer for Pascal Siakam's 24 points in the first half, Wiggins was very much that for them in the second half, plus Jokic and guys like that. But it's when the Warriors won with Wiggins in 2022, it was the offensive rebounding in the playoffs and in the finals that really made a difference for the Golden State Warriors. And that's that championship level of Andrew Wiggins. Not the points, even though that's good and you need it, but the offensive rebounding when he's really engaged. That's that level I like to see. And again, 4 and then 5 offensive rebounds in the 2 games over the weekend. So well-deserved for Wiggins. Our next thing here, Bam Adebayo missed both games with lower back soreness. We were talking before Bam was sidelined on Friday and Saturday. He didn't look right. Like, how many times did we say that in the week ahead of ultimately him getting sat down? And that's exactly what happened. I mean, you know, we kind of heard stuff behind the scenes about, you know, maybe he's not completely right physically and all this stuff. And then eventually they decided, you know what, let's give this guy a rest against Atlanta and against Indiana. You know, in his 4 games going into that rest, he was averaging 11.8 points on 37.5% shooting. He was 0 for 8 from 3-point range in those 4 games. He was just clearly not right. I think he needed this rest. They called it lower back soreness. I think that's definitely part of it, a big part of it. But more than anything, I think he needed time to just sit down and try to get his body right. And it does look like he will be back Monday night against the Denver Nuggets. He's already listed as probable on the official injury report. So they're going to need him, right, against Nikola Jokic. This is a very different kind of, with the Denver Nuggets, a very different kind of opponent than the Hawks and the Pacers. But what were your thoughts on the decision to let Bam rest those couple of games?
Necessary. Like, I think if Bam had been able to play, he'd be out there. And I think that's sometimes to his detriment. Again, like, you don't want to be a lesser version of the player that we know he's capable of being. And that's exactly who he's been. So a smart decision from him and a smart decision from the training staff to say, you know what, if you're in this kind of pain, you shouldn't be able to play out there. Like, this isn't a high stakes game, like a playoff scenario where you need Bam out there to go up against the Hawks and Pacers. Yeah, it's tough if you have to lose one of those 2 games, especially as you're fighting for, your place in the standings against a team like Atlanta, but ultimately not that big a deal. Kudos to everybody else for stepping up. And I think a smart decision from Bam to be able to say, you know what, I shouldn't be able to play out there as much as I might want to. And so I think that begs the question, though, is like,
well, before you get to that question, I'm sorry, but just to follow up on that point, because you're right, to let him rest against Atlanta and then Indiana, you don't want to lose those games, but you could probably win those games without him too at the same time. Where you look at the schedule, Denver, Detroit, Minnesota is the next 3 games. You're going to need Bam for those games. So not only were you playing lesser teams in the Hawks and the Pacers, but also on in a back-to-back set. You didn't want to break Bam when he was already kind of limping in those games ahead of some really big matchups. Out of conference matchups, but matchups that you still want to win. Those are games that you're going to need Bam for, and you're going to need him rested. So that was a good point. Okay. The question that it begs, go ahead.
Is Miami a better team without Bam Adebayo? I know it's easy to point to the last 2 wins, and I feel like I'm just voicing this question because I think a lot of people in the fan base might feel that way. And look, it's easy to point to 2 wins and say, oh, that's it. Bam was the problem all along. And I think that's a little too reductive. So I'm putting this out there because I know a lot of people are already thinking along those lines anyway. And I think you and I are both in agreement that the answer is clearly no. Like maybe this team is better without the version of Bam that we've seen over the last couple of weeks preceding his absence. But ultimately, the team is going to be better when Bam Adebayo is healthy. Like you'll see this impact on Monday night against the Denver Nuggets because as much as nobody really guards Nikola Jokic, Bam probably does as good a job of trying to at least make things a little bit more difficult for Nikola Jokic. And that's where you're going to see his impact out there in what he does defensively. And hopefully he'll be able to contribute something offensively as well. But look, I think the underlying idea here is not, and we should all try to focus on this as a positive spin anyway. It's not that the team is better without Bam. It's that despite Bam not being there, Miami still got some great contributions from a number of players. Their style doesn't change with Bam being out on the floor or off the floor. Like they lose a little bit defensively. Maybe he takes on a bigger role offensively when he's out on the floor. And yet when he's not there, I think you have enough depth here. And we saw it with a guy like Pelle coming back and having the impact he did, with Kel'el continuing to build in confidence and be the impactful player that he did, with guys like Norm and Wiggs stepping up in those moments. I think it's just a positive thing for this Miami team to say, you know what, our captain is out, and we have to find a way to try and win against inferior opponents. And I think that matters as well.
It does. I mostly agree with you. We're going to take a break and we'll get my thoughts on this, plus some more listener questions after this. So we did get some listener questions that we're going to get to here. Thanks to everybody who sent in questions on the subtext text line in the show notes. You can find the link for that in the show notes if you want to sign up. But we got questions from one listener who just said straight up, are we better? Are we a better team without Bam? Flavio writes in, it is clear for most of the fans that Bam is not supposed to be the face of the franchise. With that, the question is now the time to trade Bam and still get good value? There's so much that I want to get to here, though. But look, are the Heat a better team without Bam? No, they're not. Come on, stop. They are, though, a better team without a clearly limited Bam.
Right.
And that's why you rest him. Instead of trying to force the ball to him and get your offense out of rhythm and ask him to do things defensively that he physically is just struggling to do, take him off the floor, get your healthy guys out there, and let Bam get right. I don't think that there's any question that the Heat were better without Bam over the weekend because Bam was physically limited. But nobody's talking about that. Like, that's not the question people are asking, right? They look at the results here and they say, well, obviously, they were losing and then Bam sat and now they're winning. And so clearly Bam is the problem. Nobody was saying Bam was the problem, though, when Pascal Siakam was scoring 24 points in the first half against us on Saturday night. I think it was pretty clear in the first half when Pascal Siakam was going off that they clearly missed Bam. And then a bunch of guys get hot in the second half, they win the game, and nobody talks about that anymore. I know that other people say, well, Kel'el Ware, he's playing more minutes, and he needs to play more minutes, and it's Bam. Because Bam's on the roster, Kel'el Ware doesn't play enough minutes, and Spo doesn't know what he's doing, and all these things. I know that it's a complaint among some Heat fans, too. Let me just ask you this. Would you rather have 30 minutes of Kel'el Ware or 48 minutes of Kel'el Ware and Bam Adebayo? The answer is clearly 48 minutes of Kel'el Ware and Bam Adebayo. Now, you can get into the weeds about how those minutes are distributed, but the Heat are still better with 48 minutes of Bam and Ware versus just 30 minutes of Kel'el. Okay? So there is no way that the Heat are a better team without a healthy Bam Adebayo. He still has the best plus-minus on the team. That is by far. And so you get to all that. But I do think there's two separate questions at work here, right? To get back to Flavio's question about is it time to trade Bam and stuff like that.
Yeah.
The question of whether or not the Heat are a better team without Bam or whatever is still a little bit different than, because I don't think that anybody really thinks that the Heat are better without Bam. I don't think anybody actually thinks that. But that's a different question than, is it worth paying Bam what they're paying him, and should they trade him? That's a different question. And I think that's where most people are going, and actually what most people might be kind of saying when they say we're better without Bam. They're actually saying we should trade Bam. And, whatever, that's your opinion. If you think that they need to trade Bam and try to do that, fine. I just don't know who the number one option you're getting. Like, you're not trading Bam straight up for a number one option on a championship winning team. We know Bam isn't the number one scoring option on a championship winning team. But unless Nico Harrison is going to trade Luka Doncic again, you don't trade a guy like Bam for that kind of player. That doesn't really happen. As much as people even want to throw Bam into a Giannis trade, why would the Bucks want Bam at this stage? They would rather have younger players and assets because they're going to be rebuilding. They have no use for somebody like Bam, who's a win now type of player. So, no, I don't think that they need to trade Bam. I don't think that that's what they need to do. I'm not interested in trading Bam for assets, like first round picks and stuff like that, because then you're starting way over to a point where it's really uncomfortable. But I don't know. I've got nothing else on it.
No, it's an interesting question though. Like the idea is, what is Bam's value in a trade? And
High.
given his contract and everything, it is. And I don't know that. Is it a better decision then, using that as the context for this? Is it a better decision to try and acquire those assets so that the next time a superstar becomes available, whether it's Giannis, whether it's somebody else, etc., you're at least much more in the running than you might have been? Can Miami succeed without Bam? I think the framework for this. And if they can, then why not trade Bam for whatever it is that you can get of value, and then start building.
Well, let me ask you that question. Can the Heat succeed without Bam? Like, that's a good place to start, right? If they're playing the Hawks and the injured Indiana Pacers every night, then yeah.
They can succeed, and yet their window is also limited, because I know he does provide something of great value during playoff series. And yet it almost feels, again, like, to me, I don't want to see a trade. My personal feelings aside, I think you could say that Miami is almost just slightly better with Bam out there moving forward, because you have other players that are much more complementary and capable of doing the things that any team needs to win, which is primarily scoring. Like, you've got other scorers on this team. You've got players that can defend at a high level. As much as I think we appreciate all the little things Bam does, and for good reason, those are vital things, trading him might be the best path to acquiring a superstar down the road, which is ultimately what's going to keep Miami from being in contention. They still need to get a superstar.
Yeah, they do. They need to figure it out. And obviously what they want to do is pair a superstar with Bam, right? Because we know what Bam would look like next to a superstar.
You're not going to trade Terry Rozier and maybe Andrew Wiggins and get, a top 10 player.
No, it's going to cost you one of the young guys, one of the real assets. And that's, depending on the superstar, that's the conversation that you have to have. I'll say this. If the Heat trade Bam, trade everybody, right? Just start over. Other than like the really young guys on the rookie contracts, just trade everybody. It's not, to me, trade Bam. It's, do you just start over? You trade Bam, you trade Wiggs, you trade Herro, you trade everybody that's a veteran, and just completely reset around the young team. I think that's an interesting question. That actually might be a really interesting question to explore more in another podcast. Hint, hint. Cameron writes in, which Heat player has been the most underrated, meaningful contributor to the wins over the weekend, and which Heat player has flown under the radar the most for escaping blame from losses? So a two-parter there. Let's start with the most underratedly meaningful in these two wins. To me, you already gave out the credit cookies to them, so maybe not super underrated, but it's Wiggins or Pelle to me.
Yeah, I agree. I think those are the two names that I was kind of leaning towards, at least in as much as these two wins, who provided that kind of great value there. Both of them really stepped up and had magnificent games to help Miami kind of eke out those victories there. So I think they were the undervalued players. But then again, you look at this roster, and without a superstar there, I mean, you could say almost every player on this team is somewhat undervalued, right? Like, you're being led by guys that are not going to be primary options for any other team in the NBA, but yet here you get kind of this egalitarian level of contribution from so many different players. So you could almost make the argument that everybody's, to a slight degree, a little underrated.
In terms of the player that flew under the radar during the losing skid, I also think it was Wiggins. Wiggins was not playing well, and then Wiggins played well, and then the Heat won games. So I think it's the same person.
It absolutely is.
Jonah writes in, is Nico back to form? Appreciate his aggression, even with the shooting woes. He had a great plus-minus in both games. Look, you and I have talked a lot about how he kind of gets in his head when he misses shots. They've been talking about that internally. Jokic has been seeking help from the assistant coaching staff about sort of how to move on to the next play, even despite missing shots and all these things. And 100%, You did not see that body language nearly as much over the weekend when he came back. The rebounding was huge. I was really scared when Bam was ruled out, and I was like, oh, so it's just going to be Kel'el Ware as the only center with Vlad going to the G League, so that Nico coming back from this injury as a backup 5. That seemed like a kind of a tough assignment, even against the opponents that they were playing. But, man, got to hand it to him. He played really well. He was an overall impactful, helpful player. He was dishing the ball. He was part of the offense. He was assertive. His shot wasn't always falling, but he always found a way to make an impact. I thought it was a great stretch from Nico.
I agree 100%. And to answer the question, though, is he back? Yes, until he's not. Until he's not.
Right.
And I have to qualify it because we've seen these spurts before. And so the question is, and will continue to be until he shows us otherwise, can he do this consistently? And it's not just because of injury or anything else like that. Well, he's out on the floor. Can he make those impactful plays? Can he do the little things that lead to winning if the shot isn't falling? Can he just separate himself from the guy that we've seen drop his head and lower his shoulders and show that body language that you talked about and find a way to still contribute to winning? And until he does that for a larger spate of games than just a 2-game sample size, then I'm going to have to say, you know what? He's good. And he's back until he's not. And because we've seen that movie play out many times before.
100% agree. But this is how you do that, right? You don't let the missed shots affect you.
Exactly.
And for him, it's always been a really big thing. So if he really is taking steps in that direction, that's good for everybody involved, obviously. Last one here, Jonah writes in, more of an observation, although we did look pretty solid in both games, we should take into account that we played some of the worst defenses in the league. Yes, good point, Jonah. Absolutely. That's why Monday night's game against the Nuggets is so important. Bam Adebayo will be back. Tyler Herro is still out for that game, but we will see what happens.
Mustish win?
Is it mustish? After these two, I don't think it is.
It kind of is like for me, I think it's a mustish win in the sense that I want to see what they can do against a really good Nuggets team. Like I want to see how they can hold their own against a team like Denver.
Is it a must compete?
No.
Like like final score 120-119, the Heat lose. Are you feeling worse about that? Like you're not feeling okay about that?
No, I need them to win, and not even convincingly, because that's not going to happen against a Jokic-led team. Like you're not blowing out Denver, but a 5-point win against Denver, then I'm like, okay.
If Norm Powell misses a layup at the buzzer,
nope,
you would have felt great about it had he made it. Terrible, wipe it off the table. Doesn't count if he misses it.
Damn right.
Process over results. Come on, let's go. I can't go mushed on this. But that, you know what? That's because you won 2 in a row. It's not a mushed. And it's out of conference also, which is important. But definitely want to see them win the game, obviously. We will be back with a post-game show on Monday night. We'll see if my voice will be back for the post-game show. My guess is probably not, but we'll see. We did have a few more questions. If you did submit questions, we didn't forget them. We're going to save them for a future episode, including one about some names that the Heat could target before the trade deadline. Some interesting stuff to talk about even before the end of the calendar year. But for now, thanks for tuning in to Locked On Heat. Make sure you subscribe and follow Locked On Heat so you get all of the latest episodes. We'll be back Monday night with our post-game show. Stay tuned.